about banks and what your money is actually doing in those banks. There's growing concern among some banks that are sometimes outrageously high interest rates being offered on deposits by non-bank institutions is running the traditional players out of the business. Now, their fears cannot be entirely dismissed, considering that some of these non-bank financial institutions have collapsed, having failed to sustain the high interest rates offered depositors. My colleague Abigail Adumakwentri has been speaking to an analyst on the growing phenomenon.
The central bank has already registered over 225 deposit-taking financial institutions, especially microfinance and savings and loans companies, who for some reason are able to offer rates on deposits that are more attractive than the traditional banks. This has meant that an increasing number of bank clientele are moving their deposits to these firms at the expense of the banks.
Deposit mobilization has become a systemic challenge for growing banks because we are competing with a different set of financial institutions, which are the non-banking financial institutions. Now, these savings and loans companies, etc., are able to go out there and offer all manner of rates for depositors. Very, very high rates, 5% a month, 6% a month. You're talking 60, 70 to 72%. You know, now there's no bank which can offer that. Okay, so once you have a situation like that, and even MDAs begin to place monies with them, then it becomes very difficult for the banks to raise deposits that is required for economic development.
He explains this is the reason most of the banks are having to resort to promotions.
The banks have to find ways of raising deposits, so we're all trying to do all kinds of things, non-traditional things, etc. So, but the DNL is responsible for gaming, if you like, for raffles, etc. So you need their permission to run a raffle, and my understanding is that they want the banks run the raffles in sequence. So I think they allow 5 banks at a time. But the point I was making was that if they didn't do that, you probably have 20 banks running a raffle at the same time. But that just goes to underline the fact that banks are having difficulty raising deposits.
The phenomenon, he says, needs to be tackled sooner than later.
So that is what is happening actually in non-bank financial institutions. But a financial analyst has his own analysis or his own views on what is actually going on when it comes to high interest rates being offered to depositors by non-bank financial institutions and how this affects traditional banking. Abigail Adumakwentri once again has been speaking to these analysts.